Talking about the Saints' latest loss in the playoffs, as third straight year, Saints bounced on the last play of the game, falling in the wild card round to Minnesota. Nobody to blame except the Saints, and the Saints will have an offseason where they're going to look a lot different going into next year. And Jeff's with us here on this Tuesday morning to talk a little bit about it. Jeff, good morning. Thanks for the time, man. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Biggest point of emphasis now that this season is over going into the offseason, is it Brees?
Well, I think so. I think it almost always starts at quarterback, and the Saints have a lot of options there. You know, there's a lot of moving parts with Teddy Bridgewater also being a free agent and Taysom Hill coming off, that kind of breakout performance in the postseason on Sunday. He's a restricted free agent, and with the way the league is going, what we're seeing happening, say, in Baltimore with Lamar Jackson, he might attract attention on the restricted free agent market as a starting quarterback. So, yeah, I think it has to start there.
Does it feel, though, like Brees coming back is almost a foregone conclusion, Jeff?
I don't know. I would say this. I will be very surprised if he's not back, but I wouldn't be completely stunned. There's a lot that went into that game. There's a lot of emotional investment, and that has to settle. But I know Drew wants to play into his mid-40s, so it's not a matter of if Drew wants to come back. I think he definitely wants to continue playing. It's a matter of, do the Saints at this stage say maybe we need to go in a new direction? I would be surprised if that happened, but I don't think it's completely out of consideration at this stage in his 19th year.
I mean, so it's been interesting. We talked about it yesterday, Brady and Brees and losing on the same weekend. It's easy to draw a lot of parallels. However, as far as on the field, it was two completely different stories. I mean, Brees was, offensive player of the month for December, 15 touchdowns, no picks. Like, do you think, has there been a physical regression for Brees? Can he still, he can still do it?
Yeah, I agree, T-Bob. I will be very surprised if there's not a continuation of this. I think what probably goes on in the Saints building is more intense conversations about what they do after Drew, because
yes.
I do think at this point they have to have a plan, and I'm not sure how they execute it because Taysom Hill is now coming up. He's 30 years old. He's older than people think.
Oh, wow.
And I think he's the guy that would be the heir apparent. But how do you keep him under contract and keep him here with Drew clearly being the guy? So I think that those conversations will probably be what happens, trying to set the future for the next 2 or 3 years.
So I do want to talk about kind of the, how different teams are going to look at a whole, but let's focus in on Taysom Hill for a second. What is the market for Taysom Hill right now? That's what we were discussing, because I guess it's kind of odd trying to discern, okay, at what point is Hill's production a function of kind of Payton's offensive genius, and at what point could he just be successful anywhere he was?
Well, I think he definitely benefits by playing in this system with an offensive mind like Sean Payton. And I think what people need to realize, you see a lot of comments about Taysom Hill and his passing and people questioning it. I saw a lot of those same questions about Lamar Jackson. I mean, what people have to realize is it's going to be a different offense with Taysom Hill. They're going to rely on his athleticism. They're going to rely on his running ability when he's in there. That's going to be a facet of the offense, a main facet with him. And his passing is going to be, I think, something that comes along and develops. But he's not going to ever be Drew Brees. I mean, that's not how he plays. And Sean Payton, his greatest strength, as we saw when Teddy Bridgewater took over the offense, is that he's going to tailor the system around what he does best. So it's not going to look the same. So I think people get caught up in trying to compare his passing to Drew Brees, who's the most accurate passer in the history of the game. He's never going to look like that. He's going to look different, but doesn't mean they still can't be successful.
That's interesting. I guess I had never made that jump. So Hill is considered to be the heir apparent to Drew Brees, you think, right now?
Well, I think so, yes.
Wow.
I mean, that's just strictly my opinion. I know how highly he's thought of in the building. I can tell you this. I mean, he has been in his hip pocket since he's been there. I mean, he's the guy of all the quarterbacks that Drew Brees has had as his backups in what now 14 years. Only other one would be Chase Daniel, that has basically decided, I'm going to learn from Drew Brees. I'm going to be there every day. I'm going to be in the meeting rooms. I'm going to follow his routine. all that stuff, that regimen that Drew Brees goes through that makes him great, we've all read about, we've heard about. Taysom Hill followed that path, and I think that's impressed everyone in the building. They understand that leadership that he has will carry over, and they can develop and work on his passing game. And the reason you hear Sean Payton compare him to Steve Young is because Steve Young did not become a starter until he was about 30. His career developed late. People think Steve Young came in the league and was a Hall of Famer. That's not true. He played in Tampa. Didn't really play much.
L.A. Express in the USFL first, right? I mean,
right.
Straight out of college.
He became a star, I should say, at 30. He played more than Taysom. So I think that comparison's pretty valid, and I think that's why Sean Payton makes it.
Talking to Jeff Duncan, who works for my favorite sports site, The Athletic, at Jeff Duncan _ on Twitter. All right, then, outside of Taysom Hill, who's the biggest on the priority list? I mean, you got names like Onyemata up there, Ted Ginn. Who do you think the Saints prioritize trying to bring back next season?
A.J. Klein?
I actually think maybe Von Bell might be at the top of that list.
Okay.
I think it'll be interesting to see what they do long-term at safety. I did not think Marcus Williams had a good year at free safety. I know he graded highly in some of these analytics sites, but just from my film study, did not grade very highly, did not play very well against the Vikings. And they have a young star in C.J. Gardner-Johnson at that position that I think they want to get on the field. I think they tried so hard to get him on the field against the Vikings in a different way. It came back to haunt them because they ended up with P.J. Williams in man-to-man coverage against tight end Cal Rudolph, and we saw how that came out at the very last play of the game. So I think there were some mistakes made in that game strategically. But when I watched the game again, I'm getting off track here a little bit. When I watched it again a few times, they just got whipped up front. I mean, it's hard to win a game when your best players don't play well. And that includes Drew Brees did not play well. It's hard to win, guys. I mean, you just don't win when Mike Thomas runs the wrong route on a key play and it leads to
so that was Mike Thomas. That was Mike Thomas that did that on the fumble?
Yes. Yeah. Right.
Wow.
What's amazing about it, he looked right at Brees when he made the audible and the hand signal, looked right at him. I don't know what happened there, but it was a huge play in the game.
Jeff, Monday night, LSU and Clemson in the Mercedes-Benz Superdome. One pick on the way out. Who do you like?
Oh, I like LSU. You can't go against them, right? I mean,
the
way they've been playing. But I do think this is going to be a whole different battle than what they had against Oklahoma. I think clearly the three best teams in the country were Ohio State, Clemson, and LSU. I think it'll be a lot like the Ohio State-Clemson game. I mean, just a four-quarter fist fight. I have a lot of respect for Brent Venables. I think giving him that extra week to prepare for LSU's offense, this is going to be a game that comes down to players making plays, and LSU has the best one in college football in Joe Burrow. And I think in the end, he'll make a big drive or make a great pass that wins this game. But it's not going to be easy. I mean, Clemson is a bona fide championship pedigreed program. They've been in these big games, and it won't come easy.
Jeff Duncan from The Athletic on Twitter at Jeff Duncan _ where you can find his work. We appreciate the time this morning, Jeff. See you Monday night.
Yeah, guys. Thanks for having me on.